One more salawat, please. One more salawat, please. One more salawat, please. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Sayyidina wa Maulana Abil Qasim Muhammad. وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإن من شيئته لإبراهيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Our series of discussions have gone into its fourth night. Tonight begins a very important journey. Tonight is a Thursday night. Tonight essentially is the night of destiny. Throughout the entire year, you find certain days have been made specific for us. Certain nights have also been made specific. In a tradition, it says that whenever you feel like praying, and if you feel that your prayer is not answered, there are certain awqat that if you were to pray at those times, Allah accepts your prayers. Give you an example. Look at Allama Majlisi, a great scholar, having written 110 volumes of an entire book which contains 500,000 traditions. That Allama Majlisi was because of the dua of his father, and his father prayed 10 minutes before Fajr time. Many people have come, many people have asked to pray for them. Remember one thing, make sure the circumstance and the atmosphere that you create is the right atmosphere for dua. If your clothes are pure, and the place that you're praying is pure, and the food inside of your stomach is pure, and your wealth is pure, and the time is pure, then there is no way that your dua will not be answered. Allah says, "Udu'uni astajib lakum." But for everything there's a condition. For everything there's a criteria. The reason today that our dua is not answered is because all of the criteria doesn't add up. Remember, if the stomach is not pure, if your wealth is not pure, if the clothes that you're wearing is not pure, then what happens? Let's say, for example, a person doesn't give khums. You don't give khums, then what happens? The clothes that you wear are impure. Your prayer is not accepted. The food that goes in your stomach is impure. Your children you're feeding, impure. What does it go to? Now go to the maqtal and see. What does Sayyid al-Shuhada say to Imam Zayn al-Abidin? Imam Sajjad asks him. He says, "Father, don't they know who you are?" He says, "Yes, they know who I am." He says, "Then why do they want to kill you for?" Reply is very simple, because they have haram in their stomach. Haram in your stomach can take you to the level of shimr. Haram in your stomach. First criteria that you find that your heart is becoming hardened, first criteria for shimr is what? Tears don't come into his eyes. Remember, somebody who's shaqil qalb is a person who can't cry. It's the first criteria. Conditions increase though. To the extent you get to an extent, like for example Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. 40 days had gone past. Hajjaj turns around and he says, I haven't tasted the blood of a Shia. Find somebody, kill them, bring them. I haven't tasted the blood of a Shia. Now, literally, I don't know whether he drank blood or whether he liked to see blood, whether it's metaphoric or otherwise. He says, I haven't seen the blood of a Shia. Find someone, kill someone. Hajjaj, people like Mutawakkil Abbasi. Mutawakkil used to beat his own son, let alone anybody else. He had no rahm for his own son. Where does that develop from? You think it happens overnight? We don't realize sometimes. Sometimes what happens is that when that poison hits you, without you even realizing it over a period of time, you've become like that. Look at yourself and see, maybe 10 years ago, you were different. Today you're different. Where's Salawat, please? Can we come forward? We can all come as forward as we can. As every 2 seconds we're filling up, and otherwise it's going to disturb 20 minutes in. So if we can come all the way as front as we can, I don't bite. Just as forward as you can. With a salawat, please. So remember, for everything, there's a criteria. Sometimes you don't know. There are multiple things that affect you and we don't realize. You know, the first thing is the food that you eat, the money that you make, but also what's important, the company that you keep. Human beings are destroyed because of their company. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, 40 days with a person, the characteristics begin to rub off on you. Haven't you seen in the Battle of Siffin? There were certain people in the Battle of Siffin who were with Amir al-Mu'mineen, who claimed to be the ashab of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know who one of them was? Shimr. Siffin with Amir al-Mu'mineen. Within the space of one battle, he was against Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ask yourself the question, how is that possible? A person is sitting in the vicinity of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Go back and see what we said yesterday. The connection with the Imam is not with these eyes, it's with these eyes. Haven't you seen? There were people sitting around the Prophet. Surah Munafiqun is revealed. There are people praying behind the Prophet. Surah Jummah is revealed. Alright? Look at the Battle of Uhud and see. I'll give you the best example. Example that we can narrate to or relate to. Most of us are going to go for Arba'in. When we're going, we don't feel as pious. The minute you get into Najaf and the minute you go to Karbala, you're pious. You're praying 5 times a day. You're doing dhikr, you're doing ziyarah, you're doing tahajjud. Everything you're doing. Why? You feel spiritual because you're close to the vicinity of the Imam. The minute that you leave and you come to Istanbul and you see Burger King, within one burger your entire spirituality goes. Why is that? Because of a distance from the Imam. There were certain people with the Prophet, for as long as the Prophet was alive, they felt the overflow. But there was one problem, and that problem was this: their hearts hadn't been cleaned. Go back and see what is the maqsad of the Prophet. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Kitab and hikmah's ilm cannot come until the heart isn't pure. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. The first movement to understand Hussein is a pure heart. The first movement to understand Hussein is to purify yourself. Without doing that, you're lost. Why? Because your soil isn't fertile enough. It's a barren ground that you're building a building on. It's like quicksand is going to collapse. First thing you do is this: purify your heart. Remember one thing. Sometimes you find that in front of a tyrant you become impure. Certain people's jobs are like that as well. You have to face a lot of politicians. I find that the week that I spend too much time with a politician, you find your own heart becomes darkened. Be it in the East, be it in the West. They're from the same family. The jins is the same. Why? Lying, deception, hypocrisy. Today there's only one person, or you go back into history, there's only one person. That's Amir al-Mu'mineen, who's established true politics. What is politics essentially? What is governance? What is governance? What are you doing? What is the function of governance? Essentially 2 things. You're ordering, or you are sorting out, structuring the life of people to raise their standard of living. What is the purpose of the Imam? Go back and see. The Imam resolves your issues, connects you to Allah, betters your world in this life and in the hereafter. Therefore, remember one thing. It's very easy to stand up in the name of the Imam, but we've seen many people. On day one, they may be very good, but by day 2 or 3, power corrupts them. Egos corrupt them. We've seen many leaders in the past. Many leaders have stood up from our communities, from outside our communities. It's the fitrah of man. If you haven't purified yourself, you attach yourself to the world. Then what happens? Corruption takes place. How many people come out? And believe me, people who stand up to make a difference, their intention is pure. I don't doubt their intention. But does your intention remain pure when the thirst of power comes? Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, look at him. Go further. Umar ibn Sa'ad, look at him. Umar ibn Sa'ad knows who Amir al-Mu'mineen is. Knows who Amir al-Mu'mineen is. What makes him go from one end to the other end? Power. Power corrupts. If you think that these are only stories for the history books, you've seen it within our own communities. You've seen it with our own people. You've seen it with your own families. You've seen it with ourselves. You don't need to go any further than yourself, than myself, than yourselves. Look and see yourself. There are times when you're tested. Why? Allah gives you an opportunity to show you your weakness. This ground, this dunya, is for what purpose? It's an entire evolution of the heart. When we talk about revolution, inqilab, inqilab goes back to qalb. It means to change the hearts. Why Sayyid al-Shuhada is so important in the valley of spirituality is because Sayyid al-Shuhada did something that nobody else can do. What is that? He changed the hearts of the people. It's difficult to change hearts of people. What did Hussein do? The overflow was so powerful, he shifted the hearts of people. Never been seen before. Look, let me tell you something. There was a philosopher by the name of Confucius. When he goes to the king of China, he says, look, if you want to be a successful leader, you've got to do 3 things. He says, what is it? He said, feed them. Give people food, they'll follow you, they'll support you. And he says, give them weapons so that they can protect themselves. But if you can't do any of these things, there's one thing if you can do, you've won them. You've won their hearts. What is it? Win their trust. Who in history has been able to do that? What do you find in Karbala? No food, no water, no army, no protection. But if you look at Sahaba Hussein, on the 9th, what are they saying? They're saying that even if we were to be killed 1,000 times and our bodies were to be cut and they would be scattered like ashes, we would still come back and say, Labbaika ya Hussein. What is that power? What is that power? What is Hussein? What has he done? No food, no water, no clothes, no wealth. But there's something inside of Hussein that changes the hearts. Remember one thing. The heart is known as Imam al-Badan. You control all of your body. But when you find Hussein controls your heart, at that stage you go on your Mi'raj. These are those 10 days. Give your heart towards Hussein. Give your heart towards Hussein. Why? Hearts can't be controlled. You cannot control your heart. Your heart controls everything else. If I was to say to you, I will give you all the money in the world for 1 second, take the love of Hussein out and put the love of Yazid in, you'll turn around and say, I don't want this wealth. You'll lie to me and say, I'll do it. But the fact of the matter is this, you cannot do it. Hearts, when hearts come towards Hussein, when hearts move towards Hussein, Wilayat says, when you find your heart moves towards Hussein, thank your mothers. Why? Because your mother fed you that wilayah. That's why. The fact that you come to the Majlis and the Azab Hussein means that your mom didn't do khayana. Right? It means your mother was pure. It means your mother was blessed. It means your mother went out of her way to raise you. She put effort into raising you. This is why you have ishq of Hussein in your hearts. Love of Hussein. To go back. To go back. There are certain places when Allah accepts dua. What are those places? 10 minutes before Fajr, yes. Dhuhr time. Rasulullah is leaving this world. Amir al-Mu'mineen is leaving this world. What does he say? Ghurar al-Durar. Look at it and see. There's 2 books, right? The Nahj al-Balagha. That's for the awam. That's for the awam. When Sayyid Radhi was compiling it, he didn't compile it for the ulama. There's another book there of Amir al-Mu'mineen's mystical sermon. Ghurar al-Durar, which is mystical. If we can't understand Nahj al-Balagha, believe me, you're not going to understand the mystical traditions of Amir al-Mu'mineen. In that when he talks to his son Imam Hassan, look at the power that look at what he's saying to him. And if we get time, maybe in the nights to come, we'll look at one or two traditions from this book. But there's a place where Amir al-Mu'mineen comes and he emphasizes dhuhr, dhuhr, dhuhr. Why? Dua becomes mustajab. Exactly on the time of dhuhr. If a person was to pray, certain amal at that time. You don't have children, there's amal at dhuhr time. Rizq, Allah will make you, give you so much money that 7 generations of yours. Certain times. What other times are there? Just when Maghrib is setting in. If a person has an enemy, and if you were to recite, let's say for example, Surah Shams 3 times, at the moment when Maghrib is setting in, Allah takes it upon Himself to protect you. And what better protector than you have than Allah? Right? All of these things are open. But remember one thing, I'll say to you again. Majlis of Hussein is what like? Ka'annahu, you're under the qubba of Hussein. Dua becomes mustajab here. This is why it's important. Focus. This is why it's important. Don't disturb one another. But the most important thing is this. When you come here, come with adab. If there's something, learn adab. Teach your children that in the way that you were taught it. Let it not be that, for example, your children, your 5-year-old son is walking around. There's no adab in that. That means your upbringing is not reflective. Remember, you represent your parents. Don't let it be that somebody says that your parents didn't give you tarbiyah properly. I'm not going to say anything more. But this is the adab of Ahlul Bayt. When you come to the Majlis of Hussein, what are you doing? Look at the tradition. Shaykh Abbas Qummi's narrated. You were doing ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada from your heart. If you're doing ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada, you're going to be scratching your beard. You're going to be on your iPad. You're going to be talking to one another. Not that you guys are doing that. Alhamdulillah. From day one, all of you have been focused. No doubt about that. But we're saying for future generations to come, remember one thing. When you come to the Majlis, it's like you're doing ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Your tears are doing ziyarah of Hussein. You're giving condolences to Zahra. What would you do if Zahra was here? In the words of Iqbal, it wasn't even a Shia. Sunni. You know what he says? Before he passed away, there's a couplet. He said, even if I spent the rest of my life in sajda on the grave of Zahra, it wouldn't be enough to pay back the debt that's owed. Debt that's owed. There's a debt. Today, if you're Shia today, why is that? Because of a mother's sacrifice. That mother prayed for you to be here. Respect that mother. Look, today, there's no one stopping you from crying for Hussein. Today, if you think the situation is bad, you live in countries that allows for pluralism. Go to the East and see. Today in Pakistan, under what fear are people doing Azab Hussein? At any time a bomb can explode, but they sit there and do Azab Hussein. Go to Afghanistan today. Go to places like Mazar-e-Sharif. At any time there could be in Kabul a bomb explosion. But the followers of Hussein, and they sit there and they go there and they show the world that we are not afraid. In the same way, go to Iraq today. What do you see? Anytime, anything can happen. But today, what do you see? You see the followers of Hussein there. I remember a number of years ago when there was a bomb blast in Karachi. CNN showed it, I was watching it on Ashura Day when it happened. They interviewed one of the mothers, right? So what they saw was when the bomb blast happened, some people went out, then they came back in again. But you saw the flag of Abul Fadl Abbas didn't fall. The flag was raised even after the bomb blast. 2 kids died in that. One of the mothers was asked. They said, what did you say to your son? She said, before my son left, I said to him that, son, you're going to be carrying the flag of Abul Fadl Abbas. Make sure that flag doesn't fall. His body was found, but he was in such a position that the flag was up that the other person came and grabbed the flag. This is what our mothers teach us. That whatever happens, however it happens, the flag of Abbas mustn't go down. Right? This is, your mothers have taught you that. My mother has taught me that. This flag shouldn't go down. Message of Hussein shouldn't be compromised. Will you compromise it? You give your life, but you won't compromise it. This is what we've been taught. We've been taught, and what were they doing? Their mothers, your mothers don't say retaliate. They said, look, just take care of this flag, and this flag will take care of you. You take care of this flag, This flag will take care of you. You don't need to go out and do what they do. Your pathway is the pathway of ishq. This is why they say, come onto the caravan of ishq. Come onto the caravan of love. Move towards love. Know that Allah becomes your protector. Let me give you a story. Ayatollah Kashmiri was sitting there once. Students were around him. He said something. He said to one of his students, he says, let me tell you a story from when I used to live in Kufa. He says, tell me. He says, when I was in Kufa, there used to be a dervish. The dervish said to one of his students, he says, go and get me some yogurt. Now this is going back into the time of the 40s and the 50s. So a student went to get yogurt. When he picked up the yogurt to bring, a soldier was riding, and he came in as the way of the soldier when the soldier was riding. He took a stick and he hit it on his head. This guy falls to the ground, the student falls to the ground. The yogurt spills, but he remained quiet. Quietly he goes, buys another yogurt, blood is still coming, goes back to his teacher, quietly gives him. Teacher asks him, he says, what happened to your head? He said, a soldier came and he hit me on the head. He says, did you reply to him? Did you reply back to him? He says, I didn't do. He goes, go back and reply to him. He says, why? He says, because you are a wali of Allah. When a wali of Allah is patient, Allah brings bala on the people who oppress him. Ayatollah Kashmiri said, be very careful from Allah. Be very careful from Ahlullah. Be very careful from awliya Allah. They may be quiet, but their quietness brings bala on people. Think to yourself, why has certain people got problems in their life? Because they've gone and disrespected a wali of Allah. And it happens now. Go to social media and see. Go to your WhatsApp and see. How many ulama are people insulting today? Just because they don't agree with them? In Najaf there were times when even, look at Qum today, ulama may not agree. But those are ikhtilaf ilmi. It doesn't mean you take it that. It's not ikhtilaf dhati. It's ikhtilaf ilmi. And you find people are insulting, one person is insulting the other. Trying to expose people, trying to insult people, trying to call people names. Allah says, I'm Sattar al-Ayub. How do you know the person that you're insulting is not a wali of Allah? Imam says, 8th Imam says, when a person insults one of my wali, I take it on myself to seek revenge. May the la'an of Allah be upon that person. Be careful, be vigilant, be careful what you say. Sometimes you don't understand the whole situation and you make a judgment on a person. And we do that more now, especially those people who claim to be religious. Sometimes it's better that you weren't religious, and I say this with authority. Maybe shafa of Ahlul Bayt would have been for you. Person becomes religious, they become arrogant. Go recite a salawat and come forward, please. Salawat, please. And there's some space here. If you can just fill out the space. Just fill out some space. Just if you come up, recite another salawat, please. One more salawat, please. But before we go forward, let me give you a philosophy. In the riwayat it says, become one body, become united when you do azar for Hussein. Over here, obviously, there's no place to scatter. MashaAllah, everybody's packed. But remember one thing, you know, you go to the center, you see one guy sitting there, one guy sitting there. That isn't the philosophy of azar. That isn't the culture of azar. Firstly, it shows a community that's divided. Secondly, it shows that we are not united for the sake of Hussein. When the riwayat that says, become one badan, become one body and cry for Hussein. Remember that. The philosophy of azar is that we become one. We come together. Be one of those that come together. And be one of those that gives other people chances. You want your dua to be accepted? Look, if you think that dua doesn't change destiny, dua changes destiny. I've seen myself, dua changes destiny. Dua changes destiny. Why? Ahlul Bayt have wilayat over qadr of Allah. People say taqdeer. Right? People say taqdeer. What was the famous story? Touched on half of it on day one. I'm going to finish it today. You've heard this story, but I want to take it to a part. When the Ra'ib comes to Rasulullah, what does Rasulullah say to him? He says, it's not within your qisma, it's not within your taqdeer. As he's walking out, Imam Hussein is standing there. He says, why are you leaving my grandfather with tears in your eyes? He's rahmat lil alameen. Rasulullah knew he wanted to show the Ra'ib the status of Hussein. Imam Hussein with the jalal of Imamat gets up, only 4 years old. He says, come with me, let me take you to my grandfather. As he walks in, he says, grandfather, why is he walking away like this? Grandfather says, it's not within his nasib. Imam Hussein says, but don't we change nasib? If it was in his nasib, he wouldn't come to us. He's come to us, we change nasib. When a dua is not being answered, go to Hussein. See miracles from the shrine of Hussein. People who can't walk begin to walk. People who can't see, sight comes. Right? Hussein. When the children of Hussein are like that, imagine what Hussein is like. Right? You know, recently there was a case, there was a young man in Basra. He was losing his eyesight. It went down to 1/10. So had tunnel vision, his eyesight was going like this. Recently there was a case. It's been written in one of the miracles of the Muqaddasat. Recently. It says it goes everywhere, comes to the United States, goes to the UK, Harley Street, wants somebody to sort his son out, gives a lot of money. Remember one thing, when a parent sees their children in pain, they're willing to give everything. Just remember that, especially in these coming nights. When a parent sees their child in pain, they don't remain rational anymore. They'll go over that step, over their parameters, just to make sure their children are okay. Remember that. So what does this man do? Finally, there's nothing he can do. What does he do? What do you do when you've got nothing left? He says, my son is going blind, there's nothing to stop him. Medical science has no treatment for my son. So what does he do? He goes to where? Mashhad. Goes to the 8th Imam. 3 days he's there. First day he goes, no result. Second day he goes, no result. Third day, he says, let's go. As he's leaving the shrine of the Imam, he was thirsty. He says, Mullah, I'm thirsty, but I'm not going to drink from your shrine. I've come here for 3 days. My son's going blind. I'm upset. He took all the documentations, he put it in the zari. And as he begins to walk heavy-hearted, he grabs his son by the hand, they begin to walk. If you get to see Baba Tusi, as they begin to walk, they get to Babul Jawad. Baba Tusi is Najib, but they get to Babul Jawad. So he gets to Babul Jawad. And as he gets there, he's pulling his son. Tears in his eyes, he looks behind at the shrine of the Imam. He says, Mullah, everyone's left me. Are you going to leave me as well? Just said that. And he pulled his son. His son says, Father, stop. He says, why? He says, my eyesight has come back. You believe in Ahlul Bayt, believe in Ahlul Bayt. They've never left you. We forget that they're there for us. So one of the very I remember in Qom, there used to be a very famous reciter by the name of Sayyid Jawad Zakir. Say something, you know. Every time he recited this, he died in 2006. Every time he used to say something, you know, he used to pierce my heart. There was something he once recited. He said, my friend would say, Imam Hussein, I love you so much that even if you were to leave me, I wouldn't leave you. And even if you were to chop my neck off, I still wouldn't leave you. He said that my friend died in my dream, he came back. He said, Sayyid Jawad, what I said was wrong. When my eyes closed, Hussein ibn Ali said to me, tell your friend, even if you leave me, Hussein, I'll still be waiting for you to come back to me. This is Hussein. You can understand why Hussein waited for Hur to come back. Hussein waited for Habib ibn Mudahir to come. Mullah is so madloom, so gharib, that he stands there waiting for a Shia to come back. And what does a Shia do? To this day, his Shia feel sorry for themselves, not realizing your Mawla has everything. Why don't you turn back and go? He's waiting for you. You know about the ghurba of Amir al-Mu'mineen, right? The most lonely man. At least Hussein had Zeynep. In the tradition it says Zeynep would continuously look at the face of Imam Hussein. Who was there to look at Amir al-Mu'mineen's face after Zahra? You know, fathers can't cry in front of their children. I've never seen a father cry in front of his children. Amir al-Mu'mineen is the same. When you say Ya Ali, the whole world's burden is on the shoulders of Amir al-Mu'mineen. They say Imam would go out into the desert and he would say, "Oh desert, if you think that you're lonely, look at the heart of Ali." Digs a well, puts his head underneath, he used to cry. One day Kumail was coming. Kumail says, "Mullah, why do you go out into the well for?" He says, "Kumail, ever since Zahra has left me, I've got no one to talk to anymore." He says, "Who do I share my heart with?" Zeynep is yatima. Hussein is a yatim. Nighttime one child cries. Daytime one child cries. What am I going to say? Used to go to a wali, used to cry. Even in Kufa you saw Mawla used to cry. Why? Had no one to talk to. You know that gharib what he does? Look at the Shia that he had. He trained a Shia. One man comes to the Imam by the name of Najashi. I've given the story before, gave it 5 years ago. I'll repeat it here. Najashi comes to the Imam and he says something. He says, "Mawla, I'm your Shia." He says, "Najashi, what do you drink for? It's haram. Dua's not accepted." Right? In our faith, drinking is haram. Dua's not accepted. Allah stops dua. Especially a person, for example, if they take drugs or they drink, dua's not accepted. If they die within 40 days, the hadith says you die the death of a kafir. Dua's not accepted. So what happens? He says, "Najashi, please don't do that. Khilafat, Amir al-Mu'mineen." What happens then? Month of Ramadan comes, he finds Najashi drinking. He says, "Najashi, I'm going to have to lash you." Why? Because I'm here to establish adl. I know you're my Shia, I love you, but you're violating. He says, "Mawla, I can't stay with you anymore." You know what he does? Where do you go when you want to turn your back onto Ahlul Bayt? He says he goes to Sham. Where? Muawiyah. As he walks in, Muawiyah knows. Muawiyah sees him. He says, "Come, Najashi, why don't we have a drink together?" Brings him alcohol. Remember one thing. Sometimes even guidance comes from your enemies. This is why Allah opens your eyes. Everything is a sign. The entire universe is talking to you. Just make sure that you can listen to the universe talk to you. Nothing is coincidence. And remember one thing. Put wilayah in your children's hearts. However far away they go, they will always come back to this place again. However far. Imam Zain al-Abidin gives the assurance. He says, your child can flap away like a bird, but they always come back here. This is why you notice that when other people's children go, they end up like this. But when our children go, they come back to this. Remember that. What did Muawiyah say? Now Muawiyah says something that guides Najashi. Muawiyah looks up and he says, "Najashi, how gharib is Ali that even his friends leave him?" Najashi takes the glass, he chucks it on the ground. He says, "You think that I left Ali because of the fact that I don't like him? His adala is so strong." Najashi says, "But I don't care now. My heart is breaking for Amir al-Mu'mineen." Gets on his horse, begins to ride. Rides the whole night, early hours of the morning, comes into Kufa. You know, sometimes you feel it, right? Even when you're sitting at home, you want to go to Najaf. And the minute that you get to Najaf, you want to kiss the ground because you're in Najaf. This is the sunnah of the ashab of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You want to be like the ashab, kiss the ground when you come into Najaf, right? Kiss the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Become like Habib ibn Madahir. We'll discuss him today. So what does he do? They say, Najashi is saying, my Mawla is going to be resting, but I want to hug him. I want to kiss his feet. I want to kiss his hands. But my Mawla is going to be resting. Let me go and kiss his door. The tradition says, Najashi goes to kiss the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen. 2 arms come out. Says, Najashi, if you've missed me, how much have I missed you, Najashi? You think your Imam doesn't miss you? And milak is this. Ayatollah Bahjad would say. You want to know how much the Imam loves you? Look into your heart and see how much you love him. Look into your heart and see. Who says? Ayatollah Bahjad. What did he say? Look into your heart and see. You want to know if the Imam loves you? If for the sake of Hussein tears come into your eyes, you think Hussein doesn't cry? What did Imam Hussein say? He said to Imam Zain al-Abidin, tell my Shia, if only you were here to watch me. In my loneliness where I was there having given my son's chest and my other son's neck and my brother's arms, if only you were here to see what kind of a war this thirsty fought. Right? This is Hussein. This is Islam. Look inside of your own chest. I'm not here for the sake of rhetoric. I'm just here to tell you one thing. Let's all connect to Sayyid al-Shuhada. Life is short. How long are we going to live? You've seen yourself how many people have left you in the last year. You've seen yourself children becoming sick. You've seen yourself accidents taking place. How long are we going to live for? Connect. Your solution lies with Hussein. It's never too late until the final moment. Come back to Sayyid al-Shuhada, say, Mawla, I've neglected you, forgive me. I've just left you for 10 days of Muharram. But Mawla, today I need you. And I'm coming back to you. Remember when you say that, what happens? One Hur had love for Zahra. You think that Zahra alayhi salam is not going to raise her hands and say, my son's Shia is calling him. You think that doesn't happen? You think Zahra's not going to pray for you? She's going to pray for you. Don't let these times go. Don't let these moments go. Be very, very careful. This is going, these nights are going, these nights are gold. Don't waste them. Focus. Remember one thing. Let's go back to what I said. Connect your hearts. We started off on the idea of dua, Thursday night. You know what Thursday night is famous for? Tears. Why? It is through grief, huzn, that you connect back to the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. Why is that? We said something. Remember, what differentiates a human being? A human being has ishq. Right? That's what differentiates us. Yes, you're haywan al-natiq with irada. But what makes you different from everybody else is that you have ishq. Remember that. The love in your heart that you have. You have more love than anything else within creation. Even the angels. Angels have ishq. Why? Two things are required for ishq. Remember this. This is why Majnoon love Layla. Two things are required. Ilm, knowledge of what you're loving, and the free will to love. Everyone loves in a different way. You find sometimes you look at a person and you say, that person is even worth loving. One person comes and they're willing to give their life for them. Why? Because they see a love that nobody else can see. These parables that we have, like Layla and Majnoon, what were they? Somebody comes to Majnoon and says, why do you love Layla for? Look at her. What's there to love about her? She's X, Y, and Z. You know what Majnoon replies? He says, you've got to see through the eyes of Majnoon to understand what he sees in Layla. In the same way today, when the world says, why do these Shias beat their chest for? You've got to see through the eyes of a Shia, then you'll see why tears come into the eyes of a Shia. Ishq, that's what ishq is. And that's what needs to be. What is ishq? Angels love, human beings love. But why do the human beings love more than the angels? Remember one thing. The most painful love, the most personified love is what? Look to any love story, you'll see. Separation. The pain of separation intensifies love. What are we here? Separated from Hussein ibn Ali. Intensification, separation. What happens? Tears come into your eyes. Tears are the maximum stage. This is why they say, when a person cries for Hussein in this world in the Day of Judgment, they're not going to be crying. When a person cries out of the fear of Allah, they're not going to be crying on the Day of Judgment. Remember, make sure that these eyes are wet. Why? They're going to intercede for you on that day when you have nothing to intercede for you. We don't say it for myself, say it for ourselves. Why is that? You know these tears? I'll tell you a story about one of my teachers. He was lying in the hospital once. They said he's got cancer, he's finished. That teacher, as he was lying there, He looks towards the skies. He says, I could see a boat when I closed my eyes sailing. He says, my time was up. But then something inside of him said, why don't I ask just to see what the power of Hussein is? He looked up at the sky, just said one thing. He said, Allah, for the sake of my tears that I sincerely shed for Hussein, sake of my tears that I sincerely shed for Hussein, cure me. He's still alive today. It's been 20 years. I spoke to him a week ago. 20 years have gone. They said he would die. He said to me, listen, I've never told anyone the story. That's why I don't mention his name. He said it was the wasila of these tears that I shed for Hussein that I lost. You come here, it's a gold mine. It's a gold mine, but we don't have ma'rifah. This is why we don't achieve anything. Remember, you've heard the stories of a person saying Bismillah and walking over water. We say Bismillah and then you go straight into the water. Why is that? You don't have ma'rifah what Bismillah is. Haqiqat of Bismillah is what? Think about it. What is the Bismillah? You got the ba. What is the ba? From the Bismillah you don't understand. Let alone the dot under the ba. Right? I wish I had time to explain what I just said. But let me explain it to you in a way. I'm going to explain it to you in a way. But before we do, can we recite one salawat and come forward please again? Hey guys, we're bumper to bumper. If you recite a salawat, just stand up and just come forward so that people who are standing at the back and behind those double doors can walk in. If you could recite a salawat please. One more salawat please. May Allah bless these kids as well. You see, young but they're focused. This is the tarbiyah of parents. This is what we as parents need to do for our children and grandparents need to do. This is the next generation. This is the next Habib and the Salmans. Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam doesn't want just good people. He wants Habib ibn Madahir and Salman. He wants Miqdad. He wants Ammar. He wants Malik al-Ashtar. That's what he wants. Malik al-Ashtar couldn't see tears in the eyes of his Mawla. Battle of Siffin, when Ammar is killed, Malik al-Ashtar is on his knees, touches the feet of Amir al-Mu'mineen, says, Mawla, please don't grieve. For every one Salman, I'll kill all of them. Couldn't see the tears in the eyes of Amir al-Mu'mineen. How can you see the tears in the eyes of Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam? Our sins make our Imam grieve. Our slander makes Imam al-Zaman grieve. Our tu'ma, lies, cheating, stealing. Do muhasabah of yourself. Look at it and see how wretched we are. You want to get to Hussein? Hussein still loves you and gives you a shortcut. Answer is simple. Just love my mother and you'll see he'll burn all of the sins. Guidance lies there. Why? Understand who Zahra is. My time wasn't running out. I'd explain further. You've got work tomorrow, inshallah. Tomorrow I'll explain. You know who Zahra is? Just give you one note. Now that we're on the discussion. Zahra is the qadr of Allah. Zahra, the nights of Allah. Right? The highest level of existence is the arsh of Allah. From the arsh, the Quran was revealed. One Quran contains the reality of all of creation. In Ramadan, month of Ramadan, one Quran was revealed, one Quran was raised. Right? One Quran was revealed, one Quran was raised. Quran cannot be understood until Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Ana Quranun Natiq. Right? One Quran. Hassan, one Quran. Hussein, one Quran. All of your Imams, Quran. Zahra is the person who gave birth to 11 Quranun Natiqs. Right? Hamil al-Quran, Zahra. Hamil al-Wujud is Zahra. Right? Batin of Imamat is Zahra. Batin of Risala is Zahra. Understand who she is. Time permitting, inshallah, tomorrow we'll look at who Zahra is and who Amir al-Mu'mineen is. The haqq we can't do. But at least we can talk about the ma'arif of Ahlul Bayt, because our children just don't know about it. Understand who Amir al-Mu'mineen is. Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he walks, what is walking? The kibriya of Allah, the jalal and jamal of Allah is walking. It's what Amir al-Mu'mineen walks, that's what's walking. We touched upon it yesterday, I'm going to complete it today. Sunni tradition, I was looking at it myself, Sunni tradition, reading some of the books of Ahl Sunnah. It says that in the battle of Uhud, then it continues, it says, Jibreel came, and then after Jibreel came, taught something to Rasulullah. Then the hadith continues by saying, قال رسول الله نادى عليا مظهر العجائب. Who is Amir al-Mu'mineen? You understand who he is? When Rasulullah calls upon him, understand who he is. People say, is it right, is it wrong to do it? Sunni tradition is saying, and you're asking as a Shia whether it's right or wrong. Not call upon any, give nida. Madhar al-ajaib, compound. Madhar is what? Makan of dhuhur of the asman sifat of Allah. Let me break that down a little bit for those people who may not understand. The place where the dhuhur of the asman sifat comes, from hidden ghaib al-ghayub to alam al-zahir, that is known as madhar. Ajaib is what now? Haqaiq al-ashya that flow from Allah, huwiyat into ahadiyat, into wahdat, is known as ajaib. Madhar al-ajaib therefore is that first substance that through his creation everything within alam al-ghayb became alam al-shahada. Now that requires more explanation, and we'll continue. Inshallah, we'll continue. We'll continue tomorrow and the day after. It's not something that I can complete within 5 minutes. It wouldn't do the haqq to complete within 5 minutes. As a very famous poet said, he said, ilm was found under the dot, nuqta under the ba. It was ignorant people who spread that knowledge. It goes back again into the dot again. What is the dot? What, you know what ba represents now that we're on the discussion? The muwakkil of ba is Jibreel. Jibreel is the guardian of the ba. The dot under the ba created the ba. Every single letter has a muwakkil. Now you understand why Jibreel was Jibreel. That light which comes from that light is the only light that can go under the kisa. But these discussions are for tomorrow, inshallah. Our time is fast going. These nights are going. People are coming, their hearts are full. People are coming, they have hajat. I want to say one thing to you. Today I see loads of children who are here. Parents come, they bring their children. Afterwards, you're going to take your children back. Your daughters are going to be sitting with you tonight. Ahlul Bayt. These are the nights of Ahlul Bayt. These are the nights when their children become yatim. Nights of pain. As I recite today, I want you to pray for one another. Dua, when you pray for one another, Ayatollah Bahjat would say, Ikhlas, pray for one another, Malaika will pray for you. When the Malaika pray for you, Allah answers those prayers. Second of Muharram just went, right? Sayyidul Shuhada comes into Karbala. When he comes in, he calls Banu Asad. He says to Banu Asad, can I buy this land? He says, I'll give you 14,000 gold dinars for it. Takes it. He says, now I want to give it back to you as a gift. So they asked him, they said, Mawla, why are you giving it back to us for? You paid double the money giving it back. He says, I'm giving it back on 3 conditions. He says, what are those conditions? He says, after the day of Ashura, if you see our bodies are lying there under the sun, what I want you to do is just to take some dirt and just to put it over our bodies. And how gharib Hussein is, honestly. That Hussein, just take some dirt, put it over our bodies. Then Imam Hussein continues. You know what he says? Honestly, breaks my heart. He says, "Oh Banu Asad, if ever any of our Zawar come, just point my grave out to them." But he doesn't stop there. You're going to go to Karbala, aren't you? Some of you are going for Arbain. Shall I tell you what now Mawla Hussein says? Third thing. He says, "Oh Bani Asad, if ever any of my gharib, fakir Zawar come, give them food and water for 3 days. Make sure they have a place to stay." The one who was thirsty himself. This is Sayyid al-Shuhada. Then do you know what he says? He says, "Can you call your women?" Women come. He said, "Do you recognize me? I'm the son of Zahra. Just in case your husbands for whatever reason feel embarrassed, as you're walking past and you see our bodies there, just grab some dirt and put it over us." He says, "But I ask you to do one more thing." He says, "What is it?" He says, "Bring me your children." Small children came. As they came, you know what Imam says? He says, "Have you seen my children?" Children reply, "Mawla, your children are beautiful." He said, "Do you know who I am? Let me tell you. I'm the father of Sakina." You see the 4-year-old girl there? Children, if your mother and father don't put any dirt on our bodies, when you come walking and playing, just take some dirt in your small hands and just put it on our bodies. Sayyid al-Shuhada. Imagine the ghurba of Hussein. Look, today we're here to commemorate Habib ibn Mawahir. Some people asked, they said, "Look, we don't have children. I'm going to do one musibah today before I go to Habib ibn Mawahir. You do dua. Inshallah, for the sake of this masayib, Allah will accept your dua." Where was Habib? Kufa. There are 3 people within history whose entire nasl was destroyed for the sake of Imam Hussein. You know who they were? One of them was Rabab. You know what Rabab would say? On the day of Arba'in, she says to Imam Sajjad, she says, "Son, I have nothing to go home to now. My 4-year-old daughter's in Sham. My 6-month-old baby is here. If you just give me the opportunity, I'll sit next to the grave of my husband and say, 'This is the qabr of Hussein.'" Rabab. Do you know who the other one was? Tomorrow, Aun and Muhammad will come, right? Ta'but will come. Have you ever asked the heart of Zeynep what she felt? You know, in one tradition it says that she never cried for her children. But you know what the tradition does say? When she walked past the bodies of Aun and Muhammad, she put back her tears and closed her eyes. Mother is a mother, right? But there was one more person whose nasl was destroyed. You know who that person is? You know who that person is? Go to Kufa and see. They say when Imam Hussein's head was coming into Kufa, a voice comes from somewhere and says, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah." Sayyidah Zeynep looks up and says, "Who is this person giving salam that we're in this ghurba?" Imam Zain al-Abidin replies, "Look at that head. Who was it? Muslim bin Aqil." Ruqayya, when she came forward, she looks at the head of Muslim. She says, "Muslim, I can feel what you're feeling and you can feel what I'm feeling. But Muslim, tell me, where are my 2 sons gone?" 2 sons, small children, right? In the tradition it says both of them were sitting on a tree. Smaller brother was asking the bigger brother, You know what he was asking? He was saying, tell me, brother, who is this gharib that people are calling? Kill Muslim, slaughter Muslim, catch Muslim. He says, brother, who is this Muslim? Bigger brother doesn't reply. He has tears in his eyes. Both brothers start crying. You know the tradition. You know what it says? Their reflection was on the water. A woman came. I'm not going to narrate all of it. You won't be able to take all of it. Reflection was there. One woman is there. She sees in a reflection there's two children. She looks up. She says, children, who are you? You know what the reply was? We're the grandsons of Ali ibn Abi Talib. We're gharib here. We're looking for our father. Our mother's not with us. We've never been alone. She says, come to my house. Goes to the house. Who was in the house? Harith. You know the story is in front of you. I'm not going to narrate it. I'll just narrate to you one thing. Both children close their eyes at night time. In their dream, they see Amir al-Mu'mineen come. Says, grandsons, come to me. Both of them cry. They wake up. They say, Harith comes, says, who are you? Says, Muslim bin Aqil's kids. Riwayat says he grabs both of them by the hair and he starts pulling them out. As he pulls them out, his servant is there, his son is there. He pulls them out, brings them to the Furat. He says to his son, kill them. He says, I can't touch these children. Look at their faces. He says to the servant, kill them. He says, I can't touch them. You know what he says? I'll kill them. He looks at both of the brothers and says, who wants to go first? In the tradition it says, older brother stands up and says, my mother said that the older brother is like a father. You kill me first. At that moment when he takes his sword out, younger brother comes forward as well. He says, my mother said to me that the younger brother is like a son. You kill me first. He says, both of you, take off your shirts. Older brother takes off his shirt. The younger one is crying. He says, why don't you take your shirt off? He says, because my mother would take off my shirt. I don't know how to take off my shirt. Now pray to Allah for the sake of these two sons. All of those people who don't have children, may Allah give them children. This is what Zahra wants. You're gladdening the heart of Fatima. You don't know where that mother is praying, but she's praying for all of you. Look, I'm not going to recite anymore, but I'm just going to recite one small part about Habib and that's it. You know what the tradition says? It says when the 2nd of Muharram came, army upon army is coming. As army is coming, Zeynep is looking. Zeynep is watching. 2nd day goes, 3rd day goes, 4th day goes. What does Zeynep say? She looks up to her Sayyid al-Shuhada and says, she says, brother, all of these people are coming for your blood. Is there no one to help the family of the Prophet? Sayyid al-Shuhada replies, know what he says? He says, my friend is coming as well. Right? Writes a letter. Gives the letter to Qasid. He says, go quickly to Kufa and give my letter to Habib ibn Madahir. Habib ibn Madahir is sitting there. Food is there. Hadith of the Rasulullah. Whenever you're sitting next to rizq, don't stand up for anyone. Unless if it's the hujjat of Allah. Knock comes on the door. He says, who is it? Reply comes, Ana baridul Hussein. Kisses the food, puts it down, says, Allah, this is your rizq, but your hujjat's qasid is there. Gets up, takes the letter, opens the letter, face goes white, body starts shaking. What does it say? Min Hussein ibn Ali ila rajulan faqih Habib ibn Madahir. The son of Zahra has been surrounded by enemies. Ajilan, Habib, come quickly. Habib is shaking. Quietly comes and sits down. Wife comes, says, what does the son of Zahra want? He's saying, I'm surrounded by enemies. Habib, come. Says, what are you waiting for then? Give me your sword. I'll go. Habib says, I was only testing you. I'm going. Gets up, puts his sword. What does he say to his servant? He says to his servant, the situation is very bad, my servant. Just wait for me on the border of Kufa. I'm going to come. I'm going to take you. We're going to go. In the tradition it says when Habib comes out, Muslim bin Awsaja was also coming. He says, where are you going? He says, I'm going to Hussein. He says, why? He said, Hussein is surrounded. He says, let's go together. But you know what makes Habib cry? He says that Habib, when he comes next to the border, he sees his servant is there holding onto the horse and he's whispering something. And he's saying something. He's saying, oh horse, if my master doesn't come, I'll go on you and I'll go and help Hussein. At that moment, Habib looks towards Karbala, says, Maula, how ghareeb are you that today a slave is taken? Habib gets on the horse. Habib begins to ride. Comes to Karbala. Look, I'm cutting it short. You won't be able to take it. Says Habib rides. He comes to Karbala. He comes there. You know what happens? Says Abbas comes to greet him. Hussein is there. They say in the tradition, Zeynep comes and watches Hussein's face. Why? Zeynep couldn't live without seeing Hussein's face. She would say to Abdullah bin Jafar, at least once a day, let me see Hussein's face. Zeynep was next to the tent watching Hussein's face. All of a sudden, Zeynep sees Hussein stand. As Hussein stands, Zeynep says to Fidda, go and find out why Hussein is standing. Fidda comes back. She says, I've got a news for you. Says, what is it? Habib ibn Mudahir is coming. Habib ibn Mudahir is coming. At that moment, you know what he says? She turns around and says, Fidda, say to Habib, Zeynep is giving salam. Fidda comes. Habib is standing there. You know what it says in the riwayat? Fidda says, accept the salam of the daughter of Zahra. Habib takes his amama, hits it on his knee, puts it on the ground. He says, Zahra's daughter and giving me salam? Hussein, how ghareeb are you? That Zeynep is here as well. In the tradition it says, goes to the tent, puts his head on the ground, puts the dirt on his hair. Look, I can't recite anymore. Just one more part I'll recite. Day of Ashura comes, right? I'm skipping everything coming. Day of Ashura comes. Muslim bin Awsa just stands up. You know what he says to Sayyid al-Shuhada? He says, Mawla, I want to fight as well. Mawla looks at him and sees he's old. You know what Muslim bin Awsa says? He says, Mawla, look, I can stand up. I'm fit, I want to fight. He says, I want you to do one thing. He says, what is it? Just stand in front of me when I'm praying. Allahu Akbar. Arrows start to fire. One arrow goes in. Old man looks up. Second arrow goes in. He just says, Allah, just make me survive until Hussein doesn't finish. Third arrow goes in. Fourth arrow goes in. Hussein says, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Muslim bin Awsaja falls, looks up at Hussein, just says one thing, Mawla, are you satisfied with me? I made sure no arrows hit you. Will you intercede for me on that day when your mother Zahra comes onto Mahshar? He says, I have one wasiyah though. Call Muslim bin Aqil. Muslim bin Aqil comes. Sorry. Habib ibn Mudahir comes. Muslim bin Awsa just says to Habib ibn Mudahir, I have one wasiyat for you. He says, what is it? He says, Usikum bihada. He says, whatever happens, don't leave the son of Zahra alone. Muslim's eyes close. Muslim bin Awsaja's eyes close. Habib ibn Mudahir remembered this. The time was before Dhuhr. After Asr time, the tradition says the same old father is standing there. Face is covered with blood. Having lost Ali Akbar. Having held Abbas's one arm. Having held Abbas's other arm. Having taken the pieces of Qasim. Ali Asghar's neck. One ghareeb man stands there all alone. Looks towards the right. Looks towards the left. Says, where is my companions gone now? Where are they? Hussein is now going into the... Final thing I'm going to narrate. Look, take a breath. Continuously crying is only for Imam Zain al-Abidin. Final thing I'm going to say. From tonight, the main nights begin. All of our nights are main. Final thing I'm going to say. You know what that final thing is? You know what the most painful thing for Hussein was, right? They say twice Hussein stopped and he cried. Right? But one time he prayed 2 units of prayers. You know when Hussein prayed 2 units of prayers? when Ali Asghar's body was in his hands. Couldn't take it. Ali Asghar's body was in. There was another time as well though, when tears came into the eyes of the head of Imam Hussein. You know when that time was? Let me give you a tradition. If you can take this tradition, you take this tradition. I'm going to narrate it. Final thing. You do your dua, I'm going to narrate it. Forgive me for narrating this. I've never been able to finish it. I'm going to narrate this tradition. You know what it says? When Amir al-Mu'mineen was leaving this world, right? When he was leaving this world, you find in a tradition that he whispered something into the ears of Zeynep. He said something to Zeynep which made Zeynep cry. In the same way as Rasulullah, when he whispered something to Fatima alayhi salam, she started crying and then solace came. Zeynep was crying, solace came. I looked everywhere to see what Amir al-Mu'mineen said to Zeynep that he whispered that Zeynep's heart became restful. You know what he said? I found the tradition in one place. Where was this tradition? This is where the tradition was. Zeynep doesn't cry. Karbala takes place, Ashura takes place, she doesn't cry. Kufa, then she goes to Sham. In the tradition it says when she comes to Sham, she sits down on Bazar-e-Sham. When she sits down on Bazar-e-Sham, Shimr comes with a whip, whips Zeynep on the back, Zeynep doesn't move. Says Hurmala comes forward, chucks stone at Zeynep, Zeynep doesn't move. Khuli comes forward, butt of his sword hits Zeynep, Zeynep doesn't move. Someone comes, chucks hot water, Zeynep doesn't move. Imam Zain al-Abidin looks up, says, Aunt, I can't take it that people are chucking water at you. I can't take it, people are, Aunt, why don't you go into Bazar-e-Sham for? Are you startled? Are you scared? You know what she replies? She says, son, when my father was leaving this world, he says, Zeynep, a time will come where you'll be standing next to Bazar-e-Sham. Zeynep, don't be scared. Wait for me, Zeynep, and come. I'll take you by the hand. I'll take you into Bazar-e-Sham. The reply comes, Sajjad, I'm waiting for my father to come so that he can take me by the hand and take me into Bazar-e-Sham. History doesn't say what happened. All of a sudden, an old daughter says, Assalamu alayka, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, and she begins to walk into Bazar. Mata mein Hussein.